Today on Starships and Steel, we're building this pillar of skulls. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. This week I got my Proxxon hot wire table, so I've been playing around with that a little bit. This craft is a direct result of getting the table. You can build it without the table. It's way easier with the table. So, that being said, we're going to start with a drink because crafting is thirsty work. Today we got some Russell Brewing Company, Blood Alley. It's got a nice little pig on there. Extra special bitter, 50 IBUs. Blood Alley Bitter is an extra special bitter named after a notorious cobblestone laneway in Vancouver's Gastown district. According to legend, Blood Alley was home to many fine butchers. It was one of the best places to source high quality meats. The butchers would clean their stores using buckets of water at the end of the day. The water would spill out into the alley lined the cobblestones with blood, hence the name Blood Alley. That'd be a pretty good one of your games, eh? At 50 IBUs, this beer is slightly higher in bitterness than the average ESB, but it is well balanced by the rich roasted malt flavors. Brewed by Russell Brewing Company, Blood Alley Bitter is part of the Russell Brewmaster series, which is a succession of small batch beers crafted by an unconventional beer drinker. Crafted for an unconventional beer drinker. What else we got here? 5.5% alcohol, brewed naturally in British Columbia. Let's open this up and see how many skulls of my enemies it is worth today. All right, looking forward to this. It's been in my fridge for a little while. I was going to drink this on the last live stream thing I did on the Friday, but things didn't work out. So it's been in there until I get ready for this crafting video. So we'll drink this and then we'll move on to building that cool pillar. Just a quick note. This isn't the best paint job in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but it still turned out pretty cool. I'm going to link you to a article on Terra Genesis, and if you've never been to Terra Genesis, you should go check it out. It's a little bit older site, but they got some cool stuff on there. And this article is on how to paint different kinds of marble, so I would go check that out. So, until then, to the skulls of my enemies. I don't know how to drink from this. Let's try this. Let's start here. Let's try again. It's in my light. The skull's in my light. It's kind of really a lot of backlight in front of me, so I got a bright light right here, which is, of course, shadowy when I put stuff in front of it. Should we name this guy? You guys got a comment below what we should name my skull? Let me know, and maybe we will get a cool name for the skull of my enemy. It's not bad. I'm going to give her 3.5 skulls of my enemies out of 5. So, thanks for stopping by, everyone. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And if you do, give me a like, thumbs up, all that kind of good stuff. But until then, let's get on to it. All right, and on to the build. So I like to start my projects with a little sketch usually. Just a concept idea of where we're going forward with this thing. So this is me sketching that out. I'm going to ink it back in here a little bit so you guys can see it better. So this is the original concept for the pillar of skulls that we're going to build here. Just get this finished up here. Basic form what we want. And we just call that the pillar of skulls. All right. Once we got that figured out, we need to get our tools. So in this case, as I mentioned before, we're going to start things off with, of course, the Proxxon hot wire table. This thing is invaluable. It's a little bit expensive. If you don't have one, highly recommend it if you're going to build a lot of foam terrain. Then I've got a hot knife for burning wood. You can use that for making some runes. And of course, a razor knife because you need to make some small cuts. Pretty handy. A pair of shears to cut our chains. And of course, we always need that glue gun. A little bit of glue just to put everything together. We're also going to use a pair of scissors on those skulls, as well as a piece of tin foil, which we're going to use to texture things up with. And that's everything we need to build it. So let's talk about our materials now. Again, this is a pretty simple project. So material-wise, we're just going to need a little bit of XPS foam. This is 1 inch thick foam, so a little bit of that. I need some skull rings. I talked about these in one of my earlier videos rather, and some chain, and that's pretty much it. You can use chipboard on the base if you want. I didn't in this case, but you could. But let's get on to the build of this thing. So we're going to start with the skulls, see how wide they are. They are 1 inch, so that makes it good for our foam. We can make 1 inch by 1 inch pillar. So the first thing we're going to do is set our fence up to be a bit bigger than 1 inch and just make a nice smooth cut on that bad boy, just like that. Now we're going to move our pillar back to 1 inch exactly, or our fence back to 1 inch exactly, just like that. Run it through with the flat edge against the wire, or against the fence, and that gives us our 1 inch by 1 inch piece. I'm going to move the fence over so we can do some right angle cuts on this bad boy. Just going to trim it to flush so that we got, flush is not the right word. Going to trim it so it's square. Then we're going to take a miniature and a skull. We're just kind of eyeball how big we want it. So kind of about there. That line there is looking pretty good for a place to cut off this pillar. So put that back on your right angle and there you go. And now we got a nice square pillar. Pretty quick and easy. It's a cool tool. So now we're going to make our bases. So we're just going to, again, cut that off so it's at a right angle now, basically. We're just going to take our pillar and kind of eyeball how wide we want this thing. So I'm going to say about there. I didn't actually measure this. I have no idea how wide it is. So we'll just cut that off and we will square that up. So that gives us a nice base. But it's pretty thick. It's like 1 inch thick, right? Let's make it smaller. This is another cool thing we can do with that hot wire table. Let's move our fence in so we can get 3 or 4 pieces off that. So make it 1/4 inch wide, and we'll just kind of get it all set up. And we'll take our base piece and run it through. 1, that's 2 pieces, 3 pieces, and 4 pieces. So that gives us 4 1/4 inch wide pieces, which is pretty cool. We're going to make our base too high, and we're going to trim it down a tiny bit. So we're just going to run it through on 2 edges on that table. And I didn't like it initially, like it was a little bit, the step wasn't pronounced enough, so I just put it back on the table and I ran that bad boy through one more time. So we go quick, 1, 2, and now we can see that it's much more stepped, much more cool looking. So I like that a lot better. Just get that on there so you guys can see how it looks. It's looking pretty good, quite good. So this is a set of runes I found. I'll put a link down below. And it's just some Cthulhu-inspired runes, and I use these to inspire me when I carved my runes, as we see here, with my hot tool. So just take your hot tool. It takes a little bit of effort to get this to the right temperature. Be patient, figure it out. Once you get it to the right place, then you'll be good to go. And I went over this a little bit in another obelisk tutorial I did. It's a pretty cool thing for making runes. I'm going to probably try and make something a little bit smaller and easier to handle. But just kind of, here we go. This takes some time, but it's worth the effort because you get a really cool effect when you're done. And I did this on all 4 sides. This is like a unknown script, basically, like a really old, maybe Atlantean type script or something like that. There we go, just get those bad boys done. So we'll do this on all 4 sides. And that's how it looks. Beer's giving me gas. All right. So we'll take our scissors and we're just going to cut the ring part off of those skulls. All 4 of them, just like this. And there we are, looking pretty good. We got those 4 base skulls. They're going to fit on there just like that. You push them into the foam, you get a little bit of an impression. And then I'll tell you where to glue them, which we'll talk about in a second. Now we're just taking the tinfoil ball and we're texturing up the stone pillar so it's not perfectly smooth. That gives you an idea how much texture you can give that bad boy. We do that on the bases as well. And again, as I was saying, that's pushed in so you get a little idea of where the skull is. We're just going to go with our hot glue gun and put some glue on there and then stick the skull on. And then just kind of eyeball these all the way around so you get all 4 glued to the pillar. Impression, glue, skull. Impression, glue, skull. Pretty simple. You get all 4 just like that. Oh, it's looking pretty good. You see these openings at the top? I didn't like that very much. So I took some of the scrap pieces and I just kind of stuck them to cover those up. And then I used another one of those base pieces I cut. Remember, I cut 4 and I glued those onto the top as well, just to give it a little bit, to hide those holes basically, and to make it more symmetrical top to bottom. So this is just me cutting out the scrap pieces that I had from doing my offcuts. It's looking pretty good like that. Just glue all 4 of these on. So 2 short ones, 2 long ones. And this is just me. I forgot to tape some of this, so this is how they look. Just glued on like that, textured up with a ball, and the other one glued on top. And there's the top piece that I cut off, so that gives you your concept. And there we go. Just texture that up just like that. And it's looking pretty cool. Let's glue all this together. Some hot glue on the base. So this is the small piece I'm gluing right now. Small piece to big piece. Just like that. And then we'll take the glue and put it on the base of the pillar. And we'll attach that to the base. Now I have a pretty good base of a pillar here. It's a pretty cool little set piece, I think. Yeah, just make, once you get it kind of straightened out, just push down on those things and make sure they got a nice solid bond. And this is our basic pillar. So let's get our chain. It's a pretty cool little detail, the chain, where your victims can be chained to it before they get sacrificed. So kind of estimate the length of the chain you want and then cut it off. Just like that. And I guess technically I use one more tool, which is a bamboo skewer. So I just poked a hole where I wanted the chain. Just like that. I put a little bit of hot glue on that hole. And I took the bamboo skewer and I put it through one of the links in about the middle of the chain and I pushed it into that hole. Then using my finger to hold it down, I pulled out the skewer. And I did that 4 times again. And that gives us our chain. So just kind of straighten them out so they're hanging properly. You don't want them glued incorrectly. And then I cut them to length because we don't want them as long as we made them. It's better to make them too long than too short so we can trim to length. Let's get this one more cut off here and we can move on to painting. So make sure the chains are all looking good, both the same length each. Then we get on to the painting. So of course we're going to start with black and Mod Podge, which I didn't show because it's boring. But when you're doing this, make sure your chains don't get all gummed up with glue because they will. So just kind of work them out and make them loose. Let's go on to white. So we're going to use white to not base coat this, but give it our first part of our marble color. The tutorial says to do this base coat in white, but I decided to try black instead. So I'm using a piece of black construction paper to see where my sponge is. And I just went over this and covered it pretty much all the way. And then I used a next color up, which is smoke and white. So I would smoke in at about 50-50 smoke, 50-50 white. And I mixed those up just to give it a different shade, but not hugely noticeable. Take that sponge again, paint on there, and as before, test it out on that black piece of cardboard, and then just go over your whole thing again. Maybe not quite as heavy as the first time, but pretty close. Next, we're going to go to smoke, which is just a straight up smoke. So we're going to go white, smoke and gray, or smoke and white, and then just smoke. And again, not as heavy, but pretty close. Now we're going to go smoke and slate, which will go a little bit darker. I'm going to put this on there, and this is going to be like 10% coverage, really, really light. If you go back to my mausoleum, Atlantean mausoleum, it's pretty much the same process, only with whites instead of greens. Then we're going to get the slate directly. We're going to use this to paint on the veins. So get a smaller brush and get some paint on that bad boy, and then just kind of paint on some striping, basically. You can look at some marble pictures if you want to get a better idea of how this looks. I would actually water this paint down a little bit more than I did because I didn't water it down at all. So get it a little bit better flow. But hey, I didn't, so you can get by without it. It'll look not perfect, but it'll look okay. So on the top here, like that. And once you got that done, we're going to go back to that smoke and white. Show that up here, 2 seconds. So smoke and white again. We're going to use that to highlight those veins. So take your brush again. And again, I could have made this a little bit more flow better, but I didn't. So just kind of go in there and trace those lines all again. This isn't gonna, this one is definitely not a perfect paint job. You can spend more time, do a better job than I did. I'm not always the best painter in the world. I paint miniatures better than I paint terrain, I think. So, but just kind of follow this in. And like I said, below there's a link to Terra Genesis and the article that I used to kind of get a basic idea of what I was up to here. But there's our marble pillar. You can see the runes. Some places they were better than others just because they're a different depth. So now I went to a wash. So this is a black, brown water and a little bit of flow aid. And then I just kind of covered the whole thing. And I thought it was a little bit dark, a little bit too brown. So I just covered the whole thing like I said. And then when I was done, I went back in with some paper towel / Kleenex, and I just kind of dabbed it off. And I gave it a little bit of an old look to it and filled in those runes a little bit better. Looks pretty good. Make sure again your chains aren't getting gummed up, and then go in with some silver. This is Privateer Press pig iron. You just get that, get some paint. Just paint those chains up, and just do that all the way around. If you wanted, you could like put some blood staining on the bottom, because this is obviously where people have been sacrificed to some dark god. Maybe you got to save some people, but either way, that's how it's looking. So that's pretty much the whole thing. So we're just going to kind of go over to the table here in a second and show you how that looks in play. And while we do that, I'm going to tell you, as always, if you like this video and you thought this was a pretty cool project, hit like below. And if you want to see more of this stuff, if you want to see more of my channel, which includes terrain tutoring, terrain crafting projects, Conan, sci-fi, 15mm, everything under the sun, subscribe. And I will continue to provide you guys with content. Of course, check me out on Instagram and Facebook. I'm in both places, Starships and Steel. And I will catch you guys next time when we drink again to the skulls of our enemies and build another craft. Cheers.